How long does pre-construction termite treatment last? In this video, I'm going to talk to you about termite treatment, some of the considerations that you must understand, and of course, how long it lasts, and really give you a good reminder of something that unfortunately some jobs forget that you can't forget, especially early on in your construction project. So if you're into that, you've come to the right place. Okay, so let's get right into it. Typically, termite treatment lasts, in the pre-construction, meaning the under slab, perimeter, footing, termite treatment lasts 5 to 10 years, right? Let me just go ahead and start out by telling you about my experience throughout construction. Every building that I've ever been on, we've required the termite spray around and underneath the foundations and the slab on grade. And I'll tell you, it's one of the hardest things to remember because everybody knows that you've got to do your excavation, you've got to do your forming, you've got to do your reinforcing, you've got to do your placement, you've got to put embeds in, and you've got to make sure that you have the right underlayment, right? So that's pretty common. You're not going to get away from those things, but it's like, oh my gosh, what about termite treatment? Like, do we have that scheduled? Do we have the right kind? Do we have the right kind submitted? And do we know how to adjust the treatment type to the conditions we have on the project site? So for me, it's always been like, oh my gosh, I'm glad we remembered termite treatment. Anytime that I was doing lift drawings or preparing a concrete foundation throughout my career. And so we can develop that same kind of remembrance in you. We have this video and we're going to talk about some of the nuances. Let me tell you another quick funny story. Well, I don't know if it's funny, but it's interesting, and I didn't know anything about this, but throughout my career, I was like, termites, not a big deal, never really dealt with them very much, right? As I started to travel the United States, because I wasn't going around the world back then, but I've seen little termite mounds that like create these like little like Roman invasion bastions that like bridge over to the side of the sill plate of the actual walls, and then termites infest the actual actually it's not funny, but it infests the actual structure. I was on when I was in Texas, where I was doing a really small remodel. It was like $500,000. This was when I was kind of in a life transition with my family, not knowing where we were wanting to go or what we were wanting to do, but I worked for a very small contractor, and we were remodeling a pool, of all things. And there were these rotten spots in the slab where the reinforcing was starting to rust, and it was starting to spall the concrete and come out of the concrete. And guess what? There were freaking termites inside the concrete between the space where the rebar was rusting out and the concrete, and the termites were making their way through the concrete and metal studs, through the side of the foundation, and up into anything wood that they could find. These termites are freaking crazy. They're absolutely crazy. So we have to do a good job. It's not just a check the box type of a thing. We need to make sure that we are protecting that structure from termites. So let me give you some of the different types of pre-construction application when it comes to termite spray, and we'll go from there. And then I will talk to you about some of the things that you should consider, but let's make sure that we're doing a really good job. So let's first talk about liquid treatments. There are different types, right, with different applications, and you will definitely want a trained installer and to make sure that the person coming out to service your project does a good job. This is one of those things that you actually should QC. I don't think it's just that, oh, the termite homies here, we're going to be in the office, they're out there spraying. No, go out there, check it, make sure that we have even bands of spray, that we have the right overlap, that we have the right application, that we're covering all of the areas. Typically, the spray applied will be for the sides of the footings at a minimum, preferably underneath on the inside, and definitely under the slab on grade. And you're going to have to figure out how that interacts with your base and your vapor barrier. And you're going to have to figure out how that interacts with your base and any under slab treatments or preparation that you might have as well. So how do you actually spray for termites underneath that? And this is the hard part. If it's raining outside, are we diluting it before we actually place? Like, do we have the right duration from the time that we spray to the time that we place, and is it protected, and are we making sure that the chemicals are not being diluted? So that's the most common type, and typically we do it before the placement of the foundation. And I do want to say that that lasts about 5 to 10 years. Okay, let's talk about termite baiting systems. So instead of a spray or a barrier, termite baiting systems are systems that actually bait the termites throughout the building throughout its lifespan. These need to be replaced anywhere between year 1 and 3, but they need to be maintained or checked frequently to make sure that they're working. Okay, so that's another type that you can use to get rid of termites. The key things here that you need to understand with the design are the following, and I can assure you that it is the designer's job with the general contractor and the vendor to make sure that the solution is appropriate to your conditions, and it is your job as the general contractor to make sure that it is being applied properly, and we need to take into consideration these things to make sure that you have the right application for the overall project. So let's consider these one by one. Number one, soils conditions. If you have a sandy soil, right, you have a loose soil, that can help, well, I don't want to, help's probably the wrong word, but that can lead to the breaking down of the barrier and the chemical sooner. Clay-rich soils can actually extend the effectiveness of the spray. So anything that's clay-rich and more dense can actually prolong the amount of time that these barriers, that these chemicals are effective. Moisture and weather conditions is another consideration, right? If there's a lot of water, it can dilute the treatment and the barrier. First of all, rainfall adjacent to footings and then getting underneath footings is not good in the first place, but it can dilute the treatment, especially on perimeter walls or perimeter foundations where you may have a perimeter drain and a lot of rainfall. So you need to consider that inside this design. Make sure the designers are considering it as well, and talk to the vendor about that specific application. The other thing which is crazy to me is the local termite species. Are you dealing with a weaker species, or are you dealing with like the Vikings of termites that are like going to cross land and sea to like get to the wood in your building, right? So the local termite species will definitely be something that you need to discuss, not only with the designer, but the actual vendor as well. And they, you know, from a local geographic standpoint, you do want to make sure that you have somebody that's familiar with that local species. And so a cautionary tale here would be, don't use the design from one region on another without knowing what that local region requires. So those are the main things that you need to consider. But if it's a part of the design, if you've remembered it, if you've properly prepared the work package, talk to the vendor and held a good pre-construction or pre-installation or preparatory meeting with that trade and made sure that you're installing from a quality standpoint, you should be fine. And you will want to consider retreating as an owner every 5 to 10 years. And like I said, if it is a termite baiting system, it might need to be every 1 to 3 years. So here, my key points are, you know, obviously reach out to us if you want more information, or if you want us to dig deeper into any of these topics. So that's number one. Also, like and subscribe, please. But make sure that it's in the design, that you don't forget it, that you have enough time to prepare, and that you're really having an in-depth preparatory meeting, pre-install or pre-construction meeting with the vendor, and that you QC in the field so we get a nice barrier, and that we're maintaining those systems so we can protect that building from termites. I'm going to turn this into a blog post in the description below. I hope you're able to like really remember this topic and really make sure that you loop it into a part of your planning so that you can always be successful. I hope you've enjoyed this video. On we go.